I have got 4 points. Number one, this is free money. Number two, it's free money.
That's enough.
Yeah.
We can stop there.
And number four, it helps people. But I did want y'all to know about this. This is the third year of the grant, and it's just a pass-through grant that we get from VOCA. And since we have started this position, the person who's in the position, who's Katie Strader, who's here, she's done over 120 applications for victim compensation. To the date of 11/1/2019, there has been paid out from VOCA $150,000, and $45,000 of that in Dawson County cases here in the circuit. And we think that's going to go upwards above $50,000 to victims for the various things that they have. EMS, hospitals, doctors, funeral home, crime scene cleanup, therapists, that might result in local dollars having to cover double last. So that's what VOCA funds are used for, and the program information has been sent out to over 900 crime victims, and we have placed 3 DUI memorial signs in Hall County and Dawson County because it's a circuit-wide thing that's passing through Ewell. But it's been a very excellent use of the grant money that's been given us, and I appreciate y'all approving it once again. Thank you so much.
Questions for Mr. Derrick? It's my understanding that this needs to be sent back on November 15th, if I read that correctly.
That's great.
So we probably need to move this to the voting session at 6 o'clock to make that happen, because we don't meet again until the 17th, or 21st, I mean, so.
Why do we even have to vote on something?
It's money coming in. You have to accept money.
Yeah, I think you do have to.
Changes the budget, so you have to, it has to be accounted for, so.
Well, we want it.
But I will say that, we talk about Miss Katie, she does an excellent job. I
She
had
really
the pleasure
does.
of working with her on several occasions.
Is she here? Did you say
Prior
something?
life.
Yeah, Katie Strayhorn is here. She's the one
She's right there.
Oh, okay.
under the grant, and she has been in Dawson County for many years.
Yes, she is.
But we recently put her in this grant position to cover the whole circuit. And it just
You done good there.
tremendously. You're
Well,
you're
her
doing very well.
You done real good.
Mhm.
All right, so y'all good with moving that to 6 o'clock?
Yes.
All right,
Thank y'all so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have presentation of special event business license application. Kathy Ruse, TNT Fireworks, Planning and Development Director, Jameson, Kenley Jameson.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have any bullet points of free money, but I'll do my best. Before you have an application, it's been submitted in completion by TNT Fireworks, and they will be setting up, they're wanting to set up in the Walmart parking lot. This is a lot similar to the application over the summer for the 4th of July. The only exception here is it does not include the Ingles parking lot this time. But they want to set up fireworks December 26th through December 31st. And she apologizes she can't be here today. She recently had an operation, and I told her that was okay. That if there are any questions, I'll get them to her as quickly as I can.
Questions for James?
I know last time we had some extensive discussions on the nonprofit that was benefiting from this, and it was outside of the community. Did she secure a nonprofit that's within Dawson County?
She did not. No, she's still with the lacrosse.
That's what I was trying to find
It
it.
still
But-
says the
But
lacrosse.
she did show, and I did work with her with some things. She reached out to several Dawson County organizations. There just wasn't enough interest, so the lacrosse booster club decided to support it again.
And that was the last time. Did she reach out to other ones this time around? Because I think I remember us having the conversation that we would help facilitate that with more advertising and things like that. But you know if she reached out to more this go around?
I do not know if she did this go around, but the last go around when she did reach out, she mentioned that they were coming back, they would be resubmitting for New Year's and possibly another time. So
And I think I remember her committing to this next go around, this time to have it Dawson County. That was her commitment last time.
it's difficult to have someone support it because those volunteers do have to show up, rain, snow, or sun, and actually man and sell the fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that don't have the capabilities to attend that.
Seemed like she talked about that before.
She did.
She did.
Yeah.
But she did say that she was gonna,
Try to do.
I think you did provide her with a list of
We
stuff.
did.
Oh, I noticed and I know where Walmart is, but there's different addresses. It says 156 Power Center Drive, and then it goes to 98 Power Center Drive. What's all these different,
Yes, ma'am, there's a lot of them all there. Well, Walmart is at 98 Power Center Drive, but they also obtain all the way to 158 Power Center Drive. So there's just a little confusion there, which I believe that we corrected in a couple of different spots.
well, like on page 16 of my thing, you know, it's, up at the top it says 156, and then at the bottom it says 98. And, I didn't, you know, I didn't know if there's any significance to that or not.
It could be just the significant difference could be the difference between their eyeglass location and the
Location and parking lot.
of the
Mm-hmm. Well, I know when I order my medicine, it says 156 Power Center Drive, so I didn't know about the 98.
That's a good possibility. The 156 could be their pharmacy.
Did we ever, I think the question came up last time too, did we ever confirm whether the sales tax revenue that's generated off the sale of this comes back to Dawson County?
Yes, yes, sir, it does.
And the times are 10 to 10 every day?
Yes, yes, sir.
If I read that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay. Other questions?
I think I had the same question, Chris, but also, doesn't part of the permit stay with the fire department? Or is that what they get something off fireworks for
I think that's
education
state-
prevention?
State level.
That's just the state level? I
Percentage
didn't know
of
if any of
sales.
this permit stayed here.
Not that I know that comes directly back to Dawson County Fire Department. I'd have to ask.
There's something we get off, for the county, but it's for fire prevention,
When the state approves the sale.
educational and, care, I think, because some goes to hospitals too.
Yeah, I think when the state passed the law, changed the law at the state level, it benefits.
That might be part of it.
Do they have to be licensed with the state?
Yeah, that's probably where it comes from. Other questions for Jameson?
The dates again were what, the 26th through the 31st, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? Thank you, sir. Next up, we have a presentation of land use resolution update, Planning and Development Director Jameson Kinley and Paige Hatley of Bill Ross and Associates. Whoever wants to go first.
You want to kick us off? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
that'd be great.
All right,
Thank you.
perfect. All right, so, beginning in May, the board proposed the addition of 2 residential classifications, as well as wanting to take a closer look at our procedures, as well as rewrite a few things in our land use resolution. Soon after that, there was an RFP put out, which was awarded to Bill Ross and Associates. Our first meeting with Paige was in August, and we discussed several routes as how we wanted to get what really is before you today. Today is the first of 2 different updates. This contains the addition of the 2 residential classifications, RS2 and RS3, which is 2 and 3 units per acre. It's what those numbers stand for after the residential sub-rural. We also clarified special use and conditional use portion of our land use. We kind of simplified that down just into a one special use category. We also removed several areas in this document that referred to a single and sole commission. And finally, we updated language that was asked by the county to add some flexibility with compliance to the future land use map. And we want that to be approved along with this as well. We simplified this document by creating charts that will not only help us, but also help the public quickly and efficiently identify what uses that are allowed in each zoning classification. Should the board, should it be the pleasure of the board, this will go before public hearing in the planning commission and then back before a public hearing with the board of commissioners. And then we will come back once again to finalize the version and address all of the additional commercial that we are continuing to work on. And I'll turn it over to Paige to kind of walk us through some of the more technical portions as they are addressed.
Thank you very much. That's a great overview. I really don't have much to add other than just a very quick walkthrough of some eye candy here. These are basically a representation or a representation of much of the residential chapter or article in the land use resolution, which is this many pages. We've taken all of the standards as they relate to allowed uses and dimensional requirements for your building height, your setback, and minimum lot size, and have converted that into first what we call a principal use table, which is just, I believe it's 2 pages. We've taken the uses that are either allowed by right, those that currently require special use approval, which of course means they need to come before the Board of Commissioners for review and approval. And then any blank space indicates that currently these uses are not allowed in a particular district. So at a glance, then a user can see this table and can understand what use is allowed in a zoning district. You'll notice on the left-hand column, it says NAICS reference. That stands for the North American Industry Classification System. NAICS codes are assigned to every business based on activity type. And while residential uses, of course, don't have NAICS codes, there are some non-residential uses, a few of them that are allowed currently in some of the residential zoning districts. And we thought that it would be helpful to, in processing business licenses, which requires NAICS code to be submitted for a business, that'll allow more of a checks and balances or facilitate the process when the application is submitted and the review is done by Jameson staff to make sure that, yes, this use is appropriate in a given district. And then on the right-hand side, there's a column that says C section, and it's referencing a new section that follows the table, where again, we've taken all of the existing, often repetitive, and sometimes as things have been cut and pasted or copied and pasted over time, there are conflicts that arise with slight changes in text, so inconsistencies and difficulties with interpretation. We've taken all of that and boiled those standards down into just 2 pages. What I mean by that is everything that relates to bed and breakfast requirements. It's repeated several times. Now it's listed in one place, and the user is informed, go here to see what else is required for B&Bs, short-term vacation rentals, etc. And then the next one, the other table that follows, so this was just the second page of the use table. This is now taking everything else that's left with respect to the dimensional requirements for the residential districts, and is pulling all existing standards into a single table. So you do have a series of footnotes, but we did get it all on one page, and so that it's as a reference rather than having to flip from page to page to know what's required in the zoning district. You can see it in one place. This table also does show the proposed 2 new single-family residential zoning districts that are building off of the existing RS district. As Jameson indicated, just allowing slightly smaller lot sizes, contingent on availability of sewer. So that's sort of the technical. It's just another way of presenting information that you already have.
No, that's
Okay,
excellent.
So that's kind of.
Yeah, a lot of our questions that we get are, what are, people look at it and say, what's the difference between RSR and RSRN? And so the table really allows you to kind of put those side by side instead of a lot of flipping back and forth and highlighting and things that would greatly, putting those charts out there, and as well as the entire document itself would really help, like I said, not only my department, but also the public, help navigate our land use resolution.
Questions for either one? I don't have a question, but I have a couple of comments. The board's glad to be, or at least I would say the board's glad to be getting to this point, because we've had much discussion in the past couple of years in reference to our land use ordinances and how outdated they were, and I appreciate the comment that you made that go all the way back to the sole commissioners. That tells you how old they are. That's when they were created, back when we had a sole commissioner. So that tells you that it happened probably in the early 90s. The gentleman that created zoning was Mr. Joe Lane Cox, and he left office in '93. So the period before that. So that tells you how old they are and how outdated they have been. And so I'm extremely proud to get to this particular point where they're being updated. And I will also commend you on the tables, because looking through that simplifies it by a whole lot. And I'm not much on knowing the different classifications, but I can look at this and I can tell you the classification is really simple. And your second table that gives you the whether you have to have a septic tank and a well, or water, or septic, or both, or whatever, is also good, and how many houses you can have per acre. So the simplicity of the tables in themselves should make it easier for the people who come to planning and zoning, should make it simpler for your office as well, to be able to pass on that information that people are requesting without the increased confusion that we see from time to time. And also, I think you made mention too, in reference to the looking at, the board looking at the qualification in there in reference to our future land use plan that talks about mandatory acceptance, and the board having the opportunity to have some discretion in that as well. So I'm glad to see that we're looking at that as well. Ms. Davis, do you have anything you want to?
Yes, well, just in light of the changes and the new classifications that are being put in place and the new recommendations, which I think you have before you in draft form, as mentioned, we'll need to go through a public hearing process, which takes some time. And to the extent these are going to make some sweeping changes with offering some new classifications for zoning, as well as potentially changing how we might view our land use plan. One opportunity we would have is to place a moratorium on acceptance of rezoning applications to ensure that applications don't get in the hopper that don't have the benefit of these new changes. And if that's something that you're interested in, I would suggest that we could do that at tonight's meeting and then set a course for how we would direct staff and Ross and Associates on moving forward with the public hearing process and set out that schedule. So that's something that's available to us and frankly would be recommended, I think, to ensure that we don't have this gap period of applications coming in when we have intentions for new regulations to be in place before we can get them in place lawfully.
What would the timeline on the moratorium be?
Well, my recommendation would be for it to be no longer than needed, really to get the amendments in place. I would propose, based upon just looking at what roughly our schedule would be with respect to noticing this public hearing, which is one of our biggest, that's our biggest gotcha, because we have to depend on the newspaper when they'll accept the ad, when it can run. And I think based on that, I would propose that the moratorium on the acceptance of applications for rezoning run at the earliest, so whichever comes first, February 7th as the outside date. But I think we can get it done much quicker, so it would be either February 7th or approval by the Board of Commissioners of the amendment to the land use resolution as proposed, or after we have another public hearing and the extension of the moratorium if necessary. If we get bogged down, then I would want you to conduct a public hearing before extending the moratorium, or if you take any action, you could lift it at any time. So an outside date, I believe, of February 7th.
That's the beginning,
The end.
the
So
end.
if we considered this tonight, since I think tonight
Okay.
we're gonna launch off in a public hearing process, and I think, we'd love some direction from the board tonight on doing that, to tell the staff to move forward. Assuming that that's the direction to move forward and implement this good work that Ross has done, then, we could also simultaneously adopt the moratorium tonight at the voting session. That way, we're working in tandem, and get the benefit of having these amendments move forward through the public hearing process, which of course goes before Planning Commission, and we need to walk it through and get all the, vetting publicly as we do any land use decision or resolution update. And that would allow us to not have applications coming in the interim. But I would propose we do those things, if that's of interest to this board, that we do it at tonight's voting session. We could add that to the agenda for adoption of a moratorium. And then you provide us the direction to move forward at that time on the public hearing process.
How many public hearings?
We'll have a hearing before the Planning Commission and then before your Board of Commissioners, according to our ordinance.
And
So not two before us,
No, ma'am.
just one. Okay.
as of right now, this, what we're proposing is that this will come back before November 21st BOC to move forward with the public hearings. And then the 17th would be the planning commission, and then the 19th would be the final, public hearing before the board of commissioners for this update.
December 17th and what?
December 17th, planning commission, December 19th for the board of commissioners.
And obviously, if we needed to, if we had more dialogue about it, needed to be extended, that's the reason for the moratorium being to a point where it covers that time.
Right, exactly. And so with that kind of accelerated schedule, you know, February 7th probably is the outside date, but I would propose that might be something you would consider, that we would give ourselves a little bit of room in case it comes before you, and then at the public hearing, you know, hear information that causes you to want to revisit it further, then that would get us into December. And, I think our schedule December, we do have 2 meetings, so, yeah.
Yes.
So I still think we'd have it done, at the latest, probably 1st of January.
Other questions? Y'all put that on the agenda for 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Thanks. Thank y'all, love.
Yeah, thanks.
thank you. All right. Next up, we have presentation of RFP 35419, request for proposal for consulting services for 53 overlay district and 400 corridor district update. Planning and Development Director Jameson Kinley and Purchasing Manager Melissa Hall.
Listen, you want to figure we just tackle it together, that's okay? We can tackle it together.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. I guess I'm going to help Jameson with this afternoon. And of course, I don't have my glasses with me, so I hope I can read through this with you
Oh,
guys.
my goodness.
So as we know, no, that's okay.
That helps. Get the right page.
There we go. Thank you. Passing everything off here. So as we know, State Route 53, ooh, I can't see it all, that's all. It's getting very busy.
That might be a good thing, but anyhow.
And it's something that we definitely need to attend as far as the commercial development. And back in July of 2016 and October 2017, the B+C Studios had done some preliminary work on a document for the overlay district for Highway 53. It was decided on September 21st, 2017, at the direction of the then planning director to go ahead and cancel that contract with B+C because he felt it could be done in-house. And unfortunately, no further work has been done on that at the time. And the current planning director has asked the BOC permission to release the RFP document that we did to get this updated and completed. And at the same time, the board had decided that they would like to see pricing on updating the 400 highway development and design guidelines that was adopted December 2000. So that's been quite a while. Jameson, your map?
Absolutely. So what we have here is a map of the current 400 corridor, the south portion and the north portion. And we also included just an area, kind of like a general swath along 53, one reaching from where the 400 corridor ends to Forsyth County, the other one coming from really the top of Gopher Hill all the way to the city limits.
So of course, we bid according to policy, and it went out to well over 80 possible design groups, but we received only one proposal, and that actually was from B+C Studios, which is a good thing because they are very familiar with at least the 53 portion of it. So here are some of the services that will happen on both full documents. They will do an evaluation of what we have existing in the codes and the actual documents that we have for both guidelines. They'll work with county staff to determine what their parameters and visions are to update those documents. There'll be public participation and an involvement plan As you see there, there's 4 actual phases. They'll identify the potential solution and approaches, and that will be recommended over to the county staff for discussion. They will draft a final development revision to the existing codes that where it might be needed, and the documents to ensure that they're in compliance with all the laws as they should. So there were 3 people who did this evaluation. That was Jameson Kinley, Harmony Gee, and Keith Wilson. And although there was only one proposer, they did, as I said, go through the whole process of evaluating that separately. We called references together as a group, and these are the actual outcome of the actual scores, and they did receive that 88. Here's the pricing, and we had them divide that up for task 1 being the 53 and task 2 being the 400, so that you could either award together or separately as you chose to do. And the planning staff is respectfully request the board to accept the proposal submitted and to award the contract as you see fit, not to exceed the $96,000 for both documents.
Questions?
The thing that jumps out at me pretty quickly is an update is almost as expensive as a whole new, starting from a clean slate program for 53. So what drives the cost of an update to be just as much as
Well, we first have to go back and look at when the last 400 corridor was created, which was 2001. And planning has changed dramatically since then.
Just like starting.
So I wouldn't say that we're starting over in a sense, but in technologies, lighting has changed. There's a lot of new state and federal regulations that need to be taken into consideration. So essentially, you know, it drives the cost.
And also take into consideration that the 400 guidelines was done by a completely different company. So B+C would have to go back to the beginning to visit everything that was done back in 2000, and a lot of changes have been done to ordinances since that time too. And B+C is the ones who did the original preliminary work for 53, so they're already familiar.
Right. So I guess my follow-up and final question on it is I noticed that the 400 North District, what you call North District, is not included in the 400 overlay. And looking more long-term, if we look 5-10 years down the road and what's happening in Lumpkin County with the hospital situation, it seems like that would be something that if we don't do now, we need to have planned to be able to address in the near future with a plan laid out for that corridor as well, because I see that hospital system up there, right there on the border, is going to create some pressures in between 53 and the Lumpkin campground line, or Lumpkin County line.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And our ordinance now does refer to that northern portion of the 400 corridor. It just doesn't do it as intensely as it does, 53 south, which obviously is what we've seen the most of the development so far. And you're absolutely correct. The development of that hospital is something that the planning department does need to focus on.
Is it too big of a lift to include that and extend that 400 area up higher compared to where we have been, in order just to protect that feel and that design, that we don't want to get too outside without having any regulations over it?
Currently what's proposed the corridor does go all the way to Lumpkin County line.
But it's separated out north and south.
It is separated out north and south.
But it is the same regulations for both north and south.
Generally.
Okay. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought the 400 Oak was just that section, or that section that you have highlighted in brown, but it goes all the way up, correct?
It does go all the way up.
Okay. But this price, the update, that includes that?
That includes that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
gotcha. Okay, cool.
Any reason why just one bid? Did I hear you say you sent 80?
Same.
At least 80, because it goes out on the Georgia procurement registry, and there's at least 80 there. you would just throw answers up in the air and catch which one it might be, because without actually trying to do a survey on those that were contacted, we really wouldn't know why.
All the good economy,
Yeah.
lots of work.
What'd you say the last time? I lied. I said that was my last question. The
We're
last time
used
we
to that.
had this thing bid out, what was the last time we had it bid out? What did BNC quote that at?
2016,
What was their quote then? Was it about?
it was very close to the
I was
same
thinking it was
thing.
about 50,000 last time.
Yeah, it was, I wanna say 39,000 for one portion of it and about 45,000 for a second portion.
Okay.
Where is this company located?
Never get.
I honestly don't know that.
You don't know?
That's the question I
Oh, okay.
had. Same thing.
Yeah, it probably in Atlanta.
Probably so. Other questions?
I guess the funding for this, where's it?
I've got a question here. How is this funded? Question mark.
It would be my assumption it would come from fund balance,
Okay.
because there's no contingency or anything.
And if approved, would this go, be on next year's? I mean, it's, when would they start?
Within the 2 weeks of your approval, they are supposed to be in contract.
Okay.
This budget, when does it, so it pays out, it doesn't pay out day one, it pays out on delivery?
They normally will
Schedule.
bill as they go along
Okay, so
with
it's
whatever
scheduled.
work, and they have to be very descriptive in what they're being paid for.
Okay. So I mean, the timeline of the whole process is what?
I
6
think
months?
we put in
2 years.
2 years.
So this spreads out 96,000 over 2 years.
And that would be for both documents to be complete.
Yeah.
Okay.
But your outlay of your funding is over 2 years potentially.
Correct.
Public participation, I understood reading it was 4 to 6 months.
Absolutely.
Input.
Anytime you want to implement,
Yeah,
if
that'd
you,
be
anytime you
first.
implement an overlay, you want to have as much, input from, you know, the already current property owners and the business owners in that area.
Yeah.
So there's a plan to lay out over 4 to 6 months in which we have those public hearings for that input.
Yeah, they're located in Atlanta.
Any other questions? Thank you. Next up, we have presentation request for capital improvement element adoption, planning and development director, James King. James.
Alright. I think I'm wearing a spot here. Thank you, Chairman. We have on October 3rd, the DOT voted on the capital improvement element to push it forward to the DCA, in which they reviewed it. They sent back 2 minor comments. They gave me permission to go ahead and send it to the Board of Commissioners for approval. Those comments have been addressed, and you have it before you. The only request I have is that we move it to tonight's voting session to keep into compliance with DCA regulations.
Good with that?
Do you remember what the comments were? The couple of comments? What was anything major?
Both of the comments were regarding the part of the financial report and the fees. It appeared that we may have been over calculating what would be administrative costs, but it was just a miscalculation and a misinterpretation on probably my part that I included in there that shouldn't have been. So it was just addressed fairly easily and quickly with the help of Vicki and easily explained.
On page 182, is this the most up-to-date impact fees that we have?
Oh, no ma'am, this is not the most updated. This is just through fiscal year 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that we did on this one was the fact that we actually had collective impact fees. We hadn't the previous 5 or 6 years, so throwing all the numbers in there, it just looks a lot different.
Other questions? Y'all good with putting that on 6 o'clock?
I am.
Okay.
No one answered that.
All right, thank you. Next up, presentation of 2020 local maintenance and improvement grant application and approval request, Public Works Director David McKee. David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Before you this evening, this afternoon, requesting authorization to apply for our annual 2020 LMIG application. This is the standard local maintenance and improvement grant through Georgia Department of Transportation. There's a big logarithm based off population, road miles that DOT has statewide. We receive approximately $450,000 from DOT. We're required to match that 30%. Historically, what Dawson County has done is use in-kind services. We use our own labor, our own equipment, and we do the work ourselves. I have had several discussions with the city staff. One of the roads that we had identified is Perimeter Road, and you'll see the list there on, I believe your packet's page 190, if I'm not mistaken. Perimeter Road is one of the roads that's listed there. What you'll see on the county's portion is 3 different sections of Perimeter Road. Those are the 3 sections of Perimeter Road that are unincorporated Dawson County. That's our responsibility. This Monday, I went to the city council meeting, and the city council approved the city's application, which is matching the other portions. So much like we did Burnt Creek Road a couple years ago, when the city gets their LMIG plus the additional funds that's required for Perimeter Road, they will just give us those funds to the county, and then that'll go towards our LMIG responsibility, and we will do all of the work from Perimeter Road, which will be from 9 South to 9 North. We'll cross over 53 and go to 9 North. That section from 9 North to Shoal Creek Road is not in as much need now for attention. So one thing to note for Perimeter Road, if approved, then we will perform that work starting June 1st. We typically like to do our LMIG work April, May, but I'm not going to subject myself to that during school, so we will wait till school is out. A couple other roads there you can see on the list. Sundown Subdivision, if you're familiar with Sundown Subdivision, that's off 53 going towards Forsyth County. Joseph Lane and Goswick Drive, those are 2 roads off of 9 North. And then North Sea-Tick. Various scope of work on several of those roads there, depending on the shape that the road is in. Got a couple different maps there. I think in your packet you also had a map of the breakdown of the city. Again, like I said, I did go to the city council and they did approve their portion of Perimeter Road on Monday. I'll attempt to answer any questions.
Questions for David?
Perimeter Road and Allen Street, where they meet, is that us or the city? You know what I'm talking about?
I
Next
think that's
to
the council.
School board. So with the new subdivision that they've approved and putting in there on Allen Street and the park access on Allen Street, is there anything that we need to look at in the next 12, 18 months on improving that intersection? Because now it's just a 3-way, not a 3-way, it's a stop sign, a T. So with the increased traffic level there, have we done any looking at that?
Yeah, yes, something that the city staff and I have talked about is how their developments affect our roads, whether this is an example, there's another one on
That
Perimeter
would be a
Road.
yes.
Yeah, and Perimeter Road is another example where there was some paving done that was on the county's portion. We did inspect that. So I did review the traffic study for what it was worth that was there, and the level of service for that intersection didn't change. I'm not telling you there won't be any level of service drop or that it won't be worse. Obviously, the peak times, AM and PM, is going to be an issue. I don't want to say issue. It will be more challenging at that intersection at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're referencing signalizing or anything like that, it is nowhere close to meeting the trips for signalization.
I just continue, you know, I go through there every day dropping kids off at school, and it gets backed up and backed up and backed up. I mean, every year we see more constraints at that intersection. I guess it's just landlocked, basically.
Yeah, it's something that we've talked about and I have talked about with the school board is extending turn lane storage, because they're again in that AM peak time, and I'm in that same line you are. if you're not there by a certain period, you're gonna be sitting in the travel lane.
Right.
And extending those storage lanes really in all directions. Perimeter road is not a big issue because there's a center turn lane there. There's a dual left turn there, so.
I just think while we have this Elming money, does it not make sense to maybe put a turn lane on Perimeter or have the city contribute to widening that intersection, put a turn lane on Allen Street or something like that?
To utilize the county's portion of those funds on that portion of the road, no, that portion of that road is a city road. The intersection is the county's.
Right.
But extending that turn lane would be into the city, and I could not recommend that.
Well, I guess putting a turn lane turning onto Allen Street, because now the traffic is backing up, where people to go around, if you're turning onto Allen Street, now the
Right-hand
traffic's
turns.
backing up in front of Robinson. People are getting into the turning lane
Yep.
on Perimeter to go around them.
Mhm.
So if we put a turning lane to turn on to Allen, we get that traffic out of that main lane, is what I'm.
Right-hand turn lane on.
A right-hand turn, yeah, and maybe have the school board help contribute to that potentially. I'm just throwing an idea out there.
And we are actively on those exact discussions now, and I use that term, the school board contribute that, because it's not needed any time other than in the AM and PM school
Right.
times. During the summer, it wouldn't be used at all,
Exactly.
so.
Okay, but you're engaged in that. I mean, I just think
Yes.
it's economies of scale. If we're doing this, then we might as well try to piggyback that at the same time while we're already mobilized.
Yeah, for the record, this is just a resurfacing project that we're proposing here. There's
Yeah.
no new lanes,
Right.
no new storage. This is just resurfacing what's there.
Other questions for Dave?
An update on County Bridge, I know you started that.
Kelly Bridge, I'm gonna steal our county manager's thunder. I think he was gonna report on that if I may, Dave. Kelly Bridge was started this week. They got about 1,000 feet mixed today. We're gonna be dodging weather here for the next couple weeks. And within the next 45 to 60 days, that'll be paved from the bridge to the four-way. My staff will be doing the paving. Shepco Contracting, who is our standby FDR contractor, is who's doing the mixing. What we have relayed on social media is please be patient. It is going to be a mess. But that is, it will soon be a brand new 20-year road. So yes, it started this week.
Other questions for Dave? Thank you, sir. Next up, we have presentation of request for additional funding for increased attorney fees in juvenile court. Chief Financial Officer Vicki Knight. Vicki.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm here today on behalf of Judge Burton. She had training that she had to attend, so she asked me to present this for her. As you all remember, over the last couple of years, we've had to continually add funding for the juvenile lawyer fees for both family and for the children. And so this year is no exception. So what she is requesting is an additional $63,000 to be added from general funds fund balance to pay for the child and parent legal representation. She's hoping that this will cover the remainder of the year, but still may have to come back one more time, we just don't know. But right now, there's $1.10
In both.
left in both those. So it's kind of necessary that we make this amendment.
Questions for
So
Ms.
she
Vicki?
thinks she'll spend $63,000 between now and December the 31st. That is still the end of the year, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Man.
If you,
And what we've done is we've kind of, I hate to say, rob Peter to pay Paul. We've moved budget from other line items that really need to be replenished. So we're kind of trying to even it all out, plus there'll be additional funding needed for the remainder of the year.
but your year-to-date expenditures is still an accurate number on what you've expended in that particular line
Yes.
item. So
Yes.
if you take 78,000 and divide it by 11, we're in 11 months, it's 7,000, as you well know, a month times 2, which are what we have left is 14,000, but we're asking for 43.
Yeah. Well,
It's because they
like I
borrowed
said,
from
we
other
borrowed from other
departments.
accounts. The one that we borrowed from is the account where we paid back to Hall County for their employee expenses. So because
Oh,
that
I
only
see.
comes
Okay, I see what you're-
periodically, we've just been moving money, and so now we're like, okay, we need to do this before.
But your expenditures for that actual is
For this
more.
actual is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is state mandated, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
So we don't have a choice.
We really
Do
don't.
we?
I mean,
No.
it's just really, it's one of those line items that's almost impossible to budget for.
Of
Because you have no way of really knowing how many cases you're gonna have, how many children are gonna need attorneys and their parents. So it's a requirement that the child has an attorney as well as the parents.
And that just started a couple of years
A
ago,
couple of
didn't it?
years ago.
Where they have to both have
Yeah.
attorneys,
And
separate
we
attorneys.
increased
Yeah,
it.
separate attorneys, that way there's no
And
conflict.
that's each parent,
Each parent has.
not just the parents, each parent,
Yeah.
and the child, or child,
That's correct.
if there's more than one.
Yes, that is correct. So,
No.
Approved by the state legislature.
Yeah.
All your state representatives.
You know, when they mandate this stuff, if they would give us some money, it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be great, but I don't look for that to happen.
I don't
anytime
either.
soon.
Unfunded mandate.
Oh,
Other questions for Ms. Vicky? Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have a presentation of FY 2019 third quarter financial report. Ms. Vicky, you're up.
And I have paper copies, I know some of you like to have that to make your notes on. You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, well, it's hard to believe, but we completed the third quarter and are well into the fourth quarter of 2019. It's amazing to me how fast it goes by. Okay. First item we want to talk about, and this will be the focus of this presentation, is general fund. That's our principal operating fund for the county. We have 23 funds that we account for. And, but like I said, this is the main one that most people are interested in because that's where the property taxes go. Our fiscal year runs from January through December. And as I said before, this report is for the third quarter through September 30th of 2019. Because it's the third quarter, our benchmark that we'll want to be looking at is 75%. So if you are close to that 75%, then everything's good. Primary sources of revenue for general fund is property tax and local option sales tax. Our original 2019 budget was $27,170,235, which we have amended. Currently, as of the end of the third quarter, the budget was amended to $29,338,122. Year-to-date revenues stands at $18,260,911. Expenditures are at $20,112,680, which leaves us with a deficit of $1.8 million. However, that usually catches up in October, November. And this is a good example of why you have a good, strong fund balance. Because what happens is you have that fund balance and you're living on that until your tax revenue comes in. So if we did not have that, we would be borrowing money short term.
Have we got the insurance premium tax money yet?
We receive that every year, October 15th, and it was 1.3.
That wouldn't show in this document.
No, it will not, because that was in October.
Right.
So in October is usually about the time that it catches up.
How much did you say?
1.3 million. Okay. You know, I said our budget had been amended, and these are the significant additions to the general fund budget that we've made this year. $485,000 for the CAD system, $16,000 for the smart bin settlement, $992,157 for the 2 fire trucks, $19,000 for the purchase of the leak monitor at the fuel center, $8,100 for the land use plan update, a little over $60,000 for the laptops, air cards, and mounts, $100,000 for the contingency creation, $250,000 for legal fees, $33,426 for the addition of a position, an admin assistant in the marshal's office, and $12,414 to the library, which is a total of a little over 1.9 million. This chart shows the fiscal year budget by revenue type for general fund. It shows the dollar amount, and then the third column shows what percentage that makes up of the total budget. So in looking at this, your taxes and your local option sales tax make up more than 78% of your revenue sources. The others are kind of small, but they all count. This next slide shows your budget to actual for your general fund revenues. Taxes are at 70%, local option sales taxes at 66%, licenses and permits are at 65%, charges for services, almost 65%, intergovernmental revenues, almost 75%, fines and forfeitures are at almost 70%, investment income is at 185%, donations, and we don't budget for those like at the beginning of the year, like when we just passed our budget in 2020 for 2020, we don't budget for donations. We add them to the budget as they come in. That way we're sure that, we're gonna get pretty much everything that we budgeted for. So it's kind of a mid-year, all through the year budget adjustment.
Well, I don't, what are donations? Does somebody give us money?
Yes, ma'am, there are things that are classified as donations.
Really?
Mhm. Yeah, like for the park and senior center and different things, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
we get some donations.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, we got a big one.
Yes.
6%.
The miscellaneous is at 69%, for a total, as at the end of September, we're at 62.24% of what we budgeted for revenue. And, this is just a picture, I like to see things in a graph because to me it makes it clear. So it shows that, our taxes made up 58% of everything that we've collected. Local option sales tax, was the next largest, and it made up 28%. And then charges for services are the third largest at 8%.
Now, where you have taxes, that means property taxes.
Yes, ma'am. Property taxes, motor vehicle taxes,
Oh, okay.
insurance premium tax. I mean, there's a lot of different categories in taxes. It's not just property
Okay.
taxes. Okay, next we'll look at the expenditures by function. And what I mean by function is every department that we have in the county is grouped according to the Governmental Accounting Standards Board by their function. And there's 9 of those. You have general government, judicial, public safety, which is also including the sheriff. Then we have the sheriff, public works, health and welfare, recreation and culture, housing and development, and other financing uses. So when you look at where we are at the end of September, in total, all of these total up 68.55%. They've spent that much of the budget. And then later on, I'll show you about each department. So now we're going to look at general government. And these are the departments that make up that general government function. You've got several. You have board of commissioners, county administration, elections, general government, finance, county attorney, information technology, human resources, tax commissioner, tax assessor, board of equalization, risk management, facilities, and public relations. And so if you look down through here, there's a couple of departments that are actually over budget, but it'll be amended, through the rest of the year. Really, the only one that I see as an issue is where we've got the county attorney, but that's all kind of lumped together, so that's why it makes it look higher than everyone else. For the most
Board
part.
of equalization too. Is that cause of us so many appeals?
Possibly, yeah, but see, they have finished the appeal period,
Okay.
so they probably won't have
Anything
anything
else?
else to make any difference.
Okay, that's good, that's good.
And next we'll look at the judicial function, And that's made up of Superior Court, Clerk of Court, District Attorney, Magistrate Court, Probate Court, Juvenile Court, and Public Defender. And all of these are right at 75% or below. In total, the judicial branch is at 70%, they've spent 70% of their budget. Okay, the next group that we'll look at is sheriff. And the sheriff has multiple departments, and all of his budgets together, excluding 911, because it's accounted for in a separate fund, comes up to $7.6 million. Year to date, he has spent 5.4. That puts him at total at almost 72% of his budget. And then the other public safety departments, excluding the sheriff, are marshals, fire marshal and prevention, emergency, medical services, coroner, EMA, and humane society. And all of these departments are right at 75% except for the fire marshal, but they have such a small budget, it's only $17,000. So I don't look for them to go over budget in that department because it's not a large budget. They probably spent quite a bit of stuff all at one time, and so then it'll sort of trickle in the rest.
Education material.
Yes. So altogether, public safety is at 63.96% of the budget. Did you have a question, Carl? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, next we'll look at public works, and there's two departments that make up public works in the general fund. Total budget is a little over 1.8 million. Year to date, they've expended a little over $1 million, and they're at 55.99% of the budget. The health and welfare function is made up of the health department, Good Shepherd Clinic, CASA, DFACS, No One Alone, indigent welfare. The general general fund portion of the senior center, senior services donations, and Medicare, Silver Sneakers. So the total for all of these departments is $353,004, and year to date they've spent $213,000, and they're at 60% of the budget. Recreation and culture, that's primarily your park and your library. And so altogether, that totals 1.7 million. Actual year to date is at 1.2. I'm sorry, I didn't drink. Or 69%, almost 69% of budget. Okay. Housing and development is made up of 4 departments: conservation, county extension, planning and development, and the development authority. In total, their budgets are $797,000. They have spent $564,000, and there's a little over 70% of budget. Other financing uses are the transfers that we make from the general fund to other funds. There's a transfer out to Family Connection for grants, transfer out to capital, transfer out to fleet, transfer out to 911, and then the transfer out to the GIS department. Total budget for these transfers is $3.2 million. Year to date, we've transferred 2.4, a little over 2.4, and we're almost at 75% of the budget.
What's the total cost for E911? I know this is what we take out of the general fund. What do we get for the $1.50?
Their total budget is a couple slides back. They're at a little over $1 million.
That's close.
Yeah, a little over $1 million. Okay, I also like to look at the expenditure by category, which is salaries, purchase contracts and services, supplies, capital outlay, interfund charges, other costs, debt service, and other financing uses. As you can see by looking at this category, at this slide, 60% of what we spent in general fund goes to salaries and benefits. The next largest category would be other financing uses, and then third would be purchase contracts and services. And then this chart kind of shows it graphically, 61% almost to salaries and benefits. Okay, then we have some other major funds that we account for. 911, Family Connection, Grant Fund, Hotel Motel, SPLOST 6, Capital Projects, the Solid Waste Fund, and Impact Fees. This chart shows what was budgeted, what they have received year to date, and what has been expensed year to date. I won't go through each one, just so y'all can look at it. Next, we'll look at SPLOST 6. SPLOST 6 started July of 2016, and it will end June of 2021. SPLOST resolution was for $46 million, and the county's portion is 85%, the city's portion is 15%. SPLOST collections today is a little over, well, it's almost $33 million, and September 2019 is month 50, and there's 22 months remaining. Year-to-date revenues, and this includes interest, is $5,829,909, and year-to-date expenses are $5.1 million.
Do you know the trend line on when, if we maintain that current revenue in SPLOST, what the date would be that we collect out?
No, I've calculated out what I think the projected amount will be. I think it'll be a little over 47 million if it continues the way it is right now. SPLOST 6, it's,
Keep collecting SPLOST.
Oh,
yeah, you can. It's, there's different departments that are recipients of the SPLOST. You've got information technology, sheriff, fire, roads, parks, and then payments to the city. So right now, as I said before, we've spent a little over $5.1 million this year, but out of this amount, over 3.8, you've got to add an additional 3.8 million to that that's already encumbered. There's been POs issued for it, so it's pretty close. Impact fees were reinstated August of 2018. Collections since August totaled $1.1 million. Collections just in 2019, $740,000. Impact fees can be used for library, parks, fire, and roads. And so far through September, we had only spent $122,000. They went towards the purchase of the fire truck. So in total, at the end of the third quarter, for all funds, the total budget was $50,413,111. Revenues we collected are $29,959,630, or 59.4% of the budget. And we have $31,169,832 in expenditures for 61.8% of the budget. In conclusion, Dawson County continues to be a good steward of the citizens' money, and it's projected that fiscal year 19 will end in a positive financial position. And I would like to thank all the departments and the elected officials and for your support throughout the year and your guidance. Y'all have been a very good board to work with this year. I mean, I think y'all are very fiscally minded, and I certainly appreciate that. And this presentation will be available on the county website tomorrow.
Questions for Ms. Vicki?
Thank you for this, it's very good.
Sure, good. I hope
Thank
y'all
you.
enjoy it.
Yes.
Hope it helps you and the public, because I think it's important that they understand that what you're doing with their money. And so,
Vicky, thank you and your staff, tell your staff.
Yes.
thank you. I have great staff. I'm very thankful for
And
them.
like you mentioned, department heads too, it's,
Yeah,
looking at the new budget, you can see a lot of them didn't ask for
They
There was
did.
very little increases other than some capital improvements.
The department heads and the elected
So
officials, I think
they
did a
watch
very
their money
good job.
well.
Yes,
They did a great job.
And one thing that was a continuous theme as you look throughout it is about every one of them are below that 75% cutoff, which is the mark, as you say, for the end of 3/4. So they are doing a good job, and you and your staff obviously are doing an excellent job, and we appreciate
Thank you very much.
everything that you do and all the staff do. Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have a presentation of board appointments. First up, Development Authority, Jerry Allen replacing Joel Hanner, January 2020 through December 2023. And from the Planning Commission, alternate for District 3, Tony Passarella, appointment January 2020 through December 2021, and you have both of their resumes in your packet, and so I would submit those two people for board appointment. I'll attempt to answer any questions if you have any in reference to those, and we're happy that when people volunteer to serve on the board, because we have lots of openings, and I am constantly, as I speak to the different groups, asking for volunteers. So if you're sitting out there and you want to volunteer for something, we'll be glad to have you. All right,
When will we vote on those?
21st.
21st?
All right. Any questions? All right, County Manager report.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. The Gov Deals sales has ended, and folks continue to pick up the items. So far, Gov Deals has collected $23,000 from the sale and is expected to collect a total of approximately $67,000 once everything is picked up and paid off. That money, as you know, will go towards the vehicle replacement policy, or fund, I'm sorry, out of the policy. Repaving of Kylo Church Road was completed this week, and that work was completed by county staff. As you know, this year's Trunk or Treat Halloween event at Rock Creek Park was moved inside due to the weather, but I've been told it was enormously successful, and Matt and his crew did a tremendous job out there and attracted a great crowd. The Senior Center's 10th annual Art by the Young at Heart art show is coming up on Saturday, December the 7th. The show will be held at the Senior Center from 10 a.m. to noon, and with entertainment kicking off at 10:30. Pleased to also announce that our finance department, as you mentioned earlier, have done a superb job, but they have yet again received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the current budget from the Government Finance Officers Association. This award is the highest form of recognition in the government budgeting, and I'd like to congratulate Vicki and her team on earning this honor yet again. So congratulations to you all. Just a reminder that Veterans Day is Monday. County offices will be closed, and the annual Veterans Day ceremony and parade will be held in downtown. The program will begin at 2 p.m. at the junior high school, followed by the parade at 3:30 p.m. Also on Monday, a very important day, will be the Olive Garden will be officially opening. So make sure you get down there for that. Also excited to announce that the county's new website rolled out on Friday, which November the 1st, which you'll learn more about later on in the voting session. Laura will be presenting that PowerPoint to you and what that looks like today. Other than that concludes my report.
Questions of the county manager? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
County attorney report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I just have a brief update on the employee handbook. Did not want you to think that had been lost or forgotten. That was presented to you previously at a work session by the former Human Resources Director, Lisa Green. With Brad Gould coming on board, we have gotten his input. Brad and Dave and I met this week to address some additional questions and issues and make some additional revisions. I'm anticipating that we'll present that to you at the first of next week so that you'll have plenty of time to review that in advance of November 21st, and then it will come to you on November 21st. I just did not want you to be rushed into it today because we are still tinkering with language. It's a large handbook, And I have continued to want to make some adjustments. And so with that all in mind, I wanted to provide you with an update on that schedule. I'll take responsibility for us to take a little bit longer. I also just wanted to be sure that Brad was in the mix since he'll be implementing and administrating the book going forward. But I believe we'll bring that to you on November 21st, and if you see fit at that time, you could adopt it. Otherwise, I think the goal would be to get it adopted so that it could be effective for January 1. If you have any questions at this time, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll be bringing that to you so you will have plenty of review time and can answer your questions individually as you get that document.
Questions for the county attorney? I have one. Do we have any need for a executive session?
You know, we have a few minutes. There's one brief issue that you brought up to me, Chairman, that we could handle that is threatened litigation.
Okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for litigation. Commissioner Satterfield, second by Commissioner Nix. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's pretty 4-0. It'll take about 5 minutes, then we'll go into executive session for litigation. There'll be no vote coming out of that litigation.